guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing a review for The Crow today, the remake from 2024 starring Bill Skarsgård. And it's going to be a bit of a rant as well. Now, when I say it's a rant, it doesn't mean I hate the movie, because I don't hate the movie. I do have a lot more negatives than I do have positives, unfortunately, but it's going to be a bit of a rant because what happened in The Crow seems to be things that's happening in a lot of films today. And it's one of the reasons why people say cinema is dying for this reason. Now, I'm not sure if anybody cares, but there's going to be spoilers in this review. If you've seen the original Crow, then you generally know the gist of what happens in the remake, but there are a few differences as well that I might talk about. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled at all, then don't watch this video. If you don't mind though, and you've seen the movie, or if you've seen the movie, then continue watching. I'm going to start with the positives, of course, because there are not that many, to be honest. And the first positive is Bill Skarsgård as Eric Draven. Now, his version of Eric Draven is completely different to Brandon Lee's Eric Draven. There is no touching his Eric Draven because his was phenomenal. But there's something about Bill Skarsgård's Eric Draven, not the fact that he's playing Eric Draven, but the fact that it's Bill Skarsgård doing it. Bill Skarsgård is very dynamic as an actor. I think you can see a lot of emotion in his eyes. His eyes are obviously amazing anyway, but you can see a lot of emotion in his eyes. And I think he really sells the role for a film that's not great. I think he's a standout in this film. Another positive is Danny Houston's character, the bad guy, the main villain in this movie. I think he was a good villain because he was different from the main villain in the original Crow. Now, the one in the original was just a human being, whereas in this one, he's supernatural. He's part of the underworld, part of hell. I've never read the comics, so I don't know if that's comic book accurate or it's just made up. I've no idea, but it adds a little bit of dynamic to the movie, because if it was about one man who was supernatural, Eric Draven, then he could easily kill whoever he wants. Whereas when you're giving a villain a bit of a supernatural edge to them, then you don't know who's going to win in the end. Unfortunately, that is all the positives that we have. Now to the negatives. My negatives are going to be all over the place, guys, because when I was writing down my notes, I was remembering things that happened there earlier on, and then I remembered other things that happened later on. So apologies, the negatives I'm going to talk about are a bit all over the place. Firstly, there was way too much exposition in this film. Whenever Eric was going to the halfway point from hell and earth, sometimes when it gets to that place, this is just one example. Sometimes when it gets to that place, there's way too much exposition for him getting from Earth to Middle Earth, as we want to call it. I don't know, the halfway point. There was way too much exposition there. It was almost like a music video, which was another issue that we'll get to. But it was almost like this artistic music video that just didn't need to be there. And it lasted way too long when he was doing things like that. And again, that's just one part of the exposition. There was way too many parts out with that point where I'm like, right, okay, we get it. You're doing this, you're doing that. You don't have to make it a 2 or 3 minute montage just to get the point across. I did mention that Danny Houston played a really good villain and he was decent, but everybody else, all the bad guys apart from him, were forgettable. When you look back in the original Crow, every bad guy had some sort of characteristic about them, and Eric Draven hunted them down one by one in a really cool artistic way, in the way that you remember the bad guys forever. Whereas in this one, the only one you will always remember is Danny Houston. You remember their faces, of course, but all the bad guys that he kills in this film are forgettable, and most of them don't have a name. The film was like a music video. It was like a 1 hour, 50-minute long music video. Now, I don't know if the directors previously directed music videos before, but that's exactly what this felt like. It felt like a music video, and it was just not the way to direct a film like The Crow. I also mentioned that Bill Skarsgård was fantastic as Eric Draven. However, her that played Shelly, I think her name was FKA Twigs or FKA Twigs, she was horrendous. She's a really bad actress. I'm guessing she's a singer in real life, possibly. I feel like she was only placed into this movie to try and cater for the younger audiences who know her music. I don't know her music, if she's a musician, but as an actress, she was woeful. You remember in the original, Shelly was in the beginning of the film just for a minute or so, and then we see a bit of flashbacks to her now and again that felt like a dream sequence, and you didn't really see much of her. And that's the mystery of Shelley's character in the original Crow. Whereas in this one, she was one of the main characters. She was front and center for most of the film. Even after she died, she was still front and center, going back and forward and things. And again, it felt like they were trying to cater for the younger audience so they can show this actress, FKA Twigs. And they're like, look, we've got FKA Twigs in our film. How cool is that? And it just took away everything from the film. Eric and Shelly were obviously in love. In the original, you felt that. You felt the love, you felt the heartache and the heartbreak in Eric in that film. And as much as Bill Skarsgård does a great job of his heartache, that's all it is. It's like a one-way street in this film. And I didn't feel it as I thought I should have felt it in this one. And it's maybe because I just rewatched the original a couple of weeks ago in the lead up to this one. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I didn't feel that connection between those two characters. I don't know if it was character and script wise or the actors maybe just didn't see eye to eye when they were filming. They just didn't really connect for me. The build up of those two getting together as well took 30 to 45 minutes for the entire film for them to meet each other in this medical center, sanctuary, whatever it is, a sanitarium type of thing. It wasn't really a prison. It was a place for people to be rehabilitated, a rehab center. And it just lasted way too long. There was this, I actually laughed in my head here, but when they met up, they started falling for each other straight away. And then when people were coming to get FKA Twigs' character, Shelly, Eric Draven magically found a way out of this rehab center when he never tried to escape before, but this one time, he just tried to escape one time and then he got out. So I think the script and the dialogue and the story itself to get to the point that it needed to get to was very lazy. Oh, I forgot there was another positive, and that was some of the kills in the film. I forgot about that. There were some good kills in the movie, some really disgusting looking gory scenes, which again was quite nice to see. And the CGI wasn't too bad either. Now, the CGI wasn't on point all the time, but it was actually not too bad. But if you're relying on CGI deaths for a film like The Crow, then you're doing something wrong because The Crow is not about the best gory kill scenes. It's about the love and the heartbreak between Eric and Shelly, what Eric has lost and what he tries to do to get that back, or at least try and get revenge. And we don't really see that on screen. Now, let me get to my main issue. And this is something that I see all the time now. This film was filmed and made for a specific audience. It catered to definitely the younger audience, but the issue with that is the film is catering for an audience that will not watch the movie. The audience that they're catering for are TikTokers, people who only spend 15, 20 seconds flicking through their phone on a video that after 25 seconds they get bored of and they flick past to another video. That's the type of audience this movie is catered for. But they will not go and see this film. They will just not see it. The people who go and see the movie won't like it because it's not catered for them. It's not catered for me either. And I didn't love the film. I didn't hate the film either. I did read that it's the worst film ever made. I read it's the worst film of the year. Far from it. It's nowhere near the worst film of the year. It's obviously nowhere near the worst film ever made. I think that's people just over exaggerating their hatred towards a remake. It's not a bad film, but it's not catered for me. It's probably not catered for you who didn't like the film either. It's catered for that small minority that will not watch the film at all. There will be some people who that it is catered for will go and see it and they will absolutely love this film. They will eat this movie up. They will create scenarios in their head as to what happens in certain scenes, what it actually means, and they will misinterpret absolutely everything. These people that it's catered for will misinterpret the whole movie. They probably haven't even seen the original. So it's catered for a very small minority of people who will not watch the film. And that's a shame because it's not a terrible movie. It's okay, it's watchable, but it's far from brilliant. So that's it, guys. I wasn't expecting too much from The Crow, but what I will say is I was going into this movie expecting it to be terrible, and it wasn't terrible. So does the remake of The Crow exceed my expectations? Ironically, yes, it does. It exceeds my expectation because it is better than I expected it to be. It's just nowhere near as good as the original. Now, I did do a review for the original a couple of weeks ago, and when I watched that movie, it was like I was watching it for the first time because I don't remember any of the original. And after 30 years, that movie is stunning. That movie is beautiful. and the story behind it is heartbreaking and haunting. Whereas this one is just a quick rehash. It's like a rehash for the younger audience, a rehash for a specific audience that, like I said, will just not watch it. So what do you guys think of the Crow remake? Was it the worst movie ever made? Was it better than you expected? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back seat!